Welcome to Just the Dis. My name is Brian, and we talk about Blu-rays here. And today I am talking about King Kong. I'm talking about the 1976 King Kong, produced by Dino De Laurentiis, directed by John Guillermin, starring Jeff Bridges, Jessica Lange, Charles Grodin, and more. I'll go through the cast a little bit. But this is an exciting release for me. This movie is, for me, one of the earliest memories I have of films that had an impact anyway. And this one is significant in that, all right, let's organize this here. Okay, so this is your slipcase and the back of the slip. This is the artwork flipped to the original art on the Blu-ray. And then what I'm getting at is you have two cuts of the film. This is what's great about this release. So you have two cuts of the film. You have your theatrical cut and your television cut. And I think it even says the running times here. Theatrical cut is 134 minutes, and the TV cut is 182 minutes. So over 3 hours. Actually, that says 182 minutes. In my player, it was actually 3 hours and 14 minutes. But I think that also maybe includes basically the way they've done the TV cut is they've put it into two programs, night one and night two, as it would have aired on television. And by the way, it says new 2K scan of additional TV footage and restored theatrical audio. So on the beginning of the second night, they have this whole recap, which may be, 10 minutes long, which may add to the running time. So 2 minutes might be the full, running time without that. Anyway, so this one was significant because of that TV version. I remember both Jaws and King Kong played on television, in the late 70s, and I couldn't tell you when. I'm sure I could look it up. But I saw both of them on TV, and those were not the kind of movies my parents were going to take me to theater to see. So I saw them on television, and I was just kind of gobsmacked by both. Jaws totally freaked me out, and this one had a similar effect, in that the Kong monster was definitely something I was just I'm an old person, but I was relatively young in the late 70s. So that was truly movie magic for me, to see this gigantic ape holding Jessica Lange in his hand and her interacting with it and seeing the giant shots of just the hand coming down. And it just felt real to me. Like I had no idea how they would have done that. And what's really neat about this movie is that, I've come to find out that it's sort of one of the last great Hollywood older effects pictures, in that it used, not only the old effects like the split screens and the opticals, but it also did the mechanical effects, as with Jaws, where it had a, not necessarily life-size version of the monster, but like different parts of the monster that were fully, to scale, basically. And you feel that. You feel the impact of that with Jessica Lange, who, of course, is making her film debut in this movie. This is the first time people are seeing her. And you do understand how that was a big deal. At least I did. Like, I was so young, and I don't know that it was necessarily a sexual thing or anything like that, but I definitely was just mesmerized by her as much as I was by King Kong. But so other things about this movie. The effects and everything, which are really cool. And then it was, at the time, the most expensive movie ever made, the most expensive independent production taken on, Dino De Laurentiis taking it on. And it was also the most widely released film at the time. I think it was released on 1,200 screens when it was released. And, of course, that seems like small potatoes now, but at the time that was just incredible to have a movie open that wide at the same time. Obviously, part of distribution back then was, sectional. They only had a certain number of prints, and this is exploitation movies obviously too, but I think even theatrically they only had certain numbers of prints, and so they would have to sort of cycle them around to different sections of the country, and they wouldn't make 1,200 prints of a movie. They would make a much smaller amount and move them around, and that's part of the reason movies stayed so long and stuff like that. Anyway, so those are things I didn't really know about this movie, but it's a really neat one. It is the Kong story. You have this sort of added element of an oil expedition, headed up by Charles Grodin. He's got a whole big ship and an oil crew ready to dig, including actor Jack O'Halloran, who played Non in Superman 2, and he played Emil Muzz in Dragnet. You'll definitely recognize him right away. And so he has this boat, and they're heading to this uncharted island, which he thinks will be a surefire oil strike. And Jeff Bridges sneaks onto the boat. We don't know his story, but he is a Princeton professor of paleontology and/or primates. And so he has gotten wind that the charts for that area of this mysterious island were ordered, and no charts had been ordered for that area for decades. So he immediately saw that as a possibility that somebody was going out there, and he had heard about some monster, and so he had to hitch a ride on the boat. And then they pick up Jessica Lange in a small rescue boat, and she enters the story and just transfixes everybody, and then of course becomes Kong's focus too. But it's a very significant movie, and I'm very happy that Scream Factory's put this out. I watched parts of the TV cut and the theatrical cut, and they both look good. I want to read the warning, or this is sort of the thing that plays on the screen before the TV version, just so you understand what you're getting. It says, when the TV version of King Kong was created, the editor reused some shots which wasn't noticeable on TV since the film was cropped to a 1:3:3:1 aspect ratio. We chose to present the film in its 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio and to not crop these scenes. Consequently, you'll notice a few sequences where characters speak, but there is no dialogue. The audio isn't missing. They weren't meant to be visible. There are other instances where audio sync is loose, but in the absence of separate dialogue, music, and effects tracks, these areas could not be adjusted. What I saw of this feature, I didn't think that particular problem was too distracting, but it is nice that the whole thing is in 2:3:5:1. So you don't pop out to 1:3:3 when you go to the TV footage. You're in 2:3:5 the whole time. So it's seamless in that way, and I kind of like that. I don't mind when you pop out to TV footage, but I just thought it was nice that they took that approach. It says also, our new version matches the original tape master from the TV broadcast in Paramount's vaults. We use the best available elements, sound and picture. We hope you enjoy this presentation of the longer cut. I mean, it looked good to me. There may have been some softer sections, but overall I thought it looked really pretty good, as does the theatrical cut. So let's talk about extras. This is a great collector's edition, featuring extras produced and created by Justin Beam, and I'm a big fan of him and what he does. It's always quality stuff, and we have ultimately, I think, about 50 minutes of content from him on the theatrical disc, and then on the TV disc we have it's a Q&A from the Aero Theater in Santa Monica, California. It's an hour and 8 minutes. And it has a panel of people, including, again, actor Jack O'Halloran, the director of photography, Rick Baker, Martha De Laurentiis, and I think somebody who worked with a composer. So if you add the 50 minutes plus that, you've got 2 hours and 8 minutes. Then you have 2 commentary tracks. I'll go through those features individually in a second. The 2 commentary tracks are from Rick Baker, of course, special effects man extraordinaire, and I know King Kong, the original, is a huge movie for him, so I'm excited to hear his thoughts on this version. There's also commentary by a guy named Ray Morton, who wrote a book called King Kong, history of the movie icon. So his book apparently covers more than just this film, but obviously this film is part of that book. So when I dive into that track, I am sure it will be quite educational. Now, in terms of the actual features, I'm not going to read them off the back because that won't give you really too much. I'll give you as much information as I have. Got some notes here about these. So this is on the theatrical disc, is where most of Justin Beam's content can be found. And we have something called On Top of the World with Brian Frankish and David McGiffert on King Kong. And they are the production manager and the assistant director. That is a 12-minute interview with them and their recollections from the film. Then we have When the Monkey Dies, Everybody Cries, Jeffrey Chernov and Scott Thaler on King Kong. And they were both messengers, apparently, very young and early in their Hollywood careers. I think both have gone on to be producers. I saw one of them was credited with like an executive producer on Black Panther, and so they've definitely gone on a long way since then. But they also have recollections, which is really cool, and that one is about 14 minutes. Something called Maybe in Their Wildest Dreams, sculptor Steve Varner on King Kong, and I can't remember if he worked on sculpting Kong for this movie or if he knew the guy that sculpted it. I think it might be the latter. But he talks about the actual sculpting of the body of the monster and stuff. And they have some great stills, just white plaster being sculpted. And it's pretty cool stuff. That's about 6 minutes. Then we have actor Jack O'Halloran interviewed on Kong for 6 minutes. You get his own memories of the film. So that's very cool. And then we have one called From Space to Apes, Photographic Effects Assistant Barry Nolan on King Kong. And yeah, this guy, I can't remember, again, if he worked on this movie or if he knew the guy who did the photographic effects on the film. But photographic effects are definitely a big part of this movie, and that's another 6-minute featurette. So some cool behind-the-scenes sort of special effects information there, old school style. And then lastly, we have one called There's a Fog Bank Out There, second unit director Bill Kroenig on King Kong. That is also about 7 minutes, and he is talking about his work on the film. So you have a lot of production folks involved in what was undoubtedly a gigantic project. And so I don't know, it's a pretty nice package, I gotta say, altogether, with the 2 cuts and the commentaries and everything that they've included here. And to me, this is like it's directed by John Gillerman, who was just coming off Towering Inferno and in 1974, and then this is 2 years later. He'd done a whole bunch of other stuff besides those films, but I love Towering Inferno, and this movie is, to me, very reminiscent of a 70s disaster film in that you have the big cast, like I said, Charles Grodin, Jessica Lange, Jeff Bridges, John Randolph from Seconds and Pretty Poison, Renee Auberjonois from the Altman films, and all kinds of other things. Ed Lauder is one of like the crew members on the boat. John Agar, Jack O'Halloran. I'm trying to think. There's definitely some other faces I recognized, but it feels in a way like one of those 70s disaster films, and I had forgotten that. And again, because it is so deep in my memory from when I was so young, and I haven't watched it that much for some reason, and I don't know if it's not like I've deliberately avoided it, but it's just like I have these memories of it, that especially the Kong stuff after she's quote-unquote sacrificed and he is with her, that stuff has been burned in my mind for so long. It's crazy that I haven't rewatched it again. So I'm excited to dive into both versions and see the differences. And again, I love that they made the TV version 2:3:5:1. So you're seeing it, on your widescreen TV as you would see any other widescreen film. But yeah, just a really nice collector's edition from Scream Factory, and a movie that I think deserves it. And, I should mention John Gillerman went on to direct, is it King Kong Lives Again? The next Kong movie 10 years later in 1986. I think also for Dino De Laurentiis, which I would love to see that get a Blu-ray as well. That movie's kind of crazy, kind of nuts. Definitely check that out if you can, but I don't think there's a Blu-ray right now. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble here, but really excited about this release and wanted to give you guys the rundown on it. It is something you should definitely think about ordering if you like old school effects films and you want to support Scream Factory, which I do recommend. This is one of their bigger releases this year. They've only had a few. Event Horizon was the last one that I picked up, and now you can get King Kong. And I just want to support them and continue to see them do these wonderful collector's editions. So wanted to highlight this one. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.